Court of Appeal with a number.
Let's take you back to sorry to button there, because, you know, I haven't listened to you explain that part of the no case submission and how they've gone on appeal. But we also remember the hoopla about this when their houses were raided by the DSS, all of those arguments that went on. Many expected that prosecution was going to have ironclad cases. And then they get to court, they can't prove anything yet.
Well, I think that first and foremost, let's all admit that this is a very sad commentary on the nation, on the state of our country, no less the legal profession that we all find ourselves. And one would have wished that it didn't happen at all. However, what you do with a situation in which you have barrage of allegations flying in the temple of that same justice that can evaporate. You know, it's usually a notion. Yes, the courtrooms are there and all that. But look, once you are unable to sustain the confidence of the public, not of lawyers, not of judges, not of journalists, of the general, ordinary public, that resorts to the judiciary in the event of disputation, once you are unable to sustain that, you are the last bus stop before anarchy, because people will resort to self-help. And they won't tell you. It is that, look, we no longer believe, and those things are manifesting. I'll give you an example. Go and check any serious agreement these days, perhaps involving bilateral agreement or involving concerns, companies outside this country. What you notice is that there's usually an insertion of an arbitration clause. That is one. Two is that that arbitration clause mandatorily removes resolution of dispute from this jurisdiction and takes it elsewhere. Sometimes as close as Ghana here, South Africa, not to talk of England and US. I make this point because you will not know, except from pockets of reactions as you are witnessing now, you will not know at the point when the people have resorted to self-help. Now, many of the incidents of mob actions that you witness in our communities today is as a result of the conclusion they have in their heart. And look, first is that if you take it to the police, you could run yourself into a huge problem.
But this,
second is that even when you manage,
I'm sorry, very well. Just ask the question: does the NJC have the capacity to deal with this situation?
Why not? NJC is constitutionally constituted to deal with the issues of discipline of judicial officers. And you will recall that they took the proactive steps to say, look, but we mustn't forget that that step was taken against the backdrop of the reaction of the Nigerian people to say, well, we don't think that persons who have been, indicted, as it were, who have been cited for such offenses bordering on integrity can continue to superintend the affairs of their respective courts. And it took a while, I hope you do remember that, before NJC said, look, well, I think we concede to that, and in consequence, you should excuse yourself from presiding over these courts. But if you look at the Constitution, and that is responding to your question, the NJC is empowered constitutionally to deal with issues of discipline of judicial officers. And that they have done. I mean, you also hear of a punitive measure known as interdiction. All of these are rubbed into the conditions of service of public officers, including judicial officers. And so I was making the point that, look, beyond what seems to be the immediate divide of this debate, namely, are you in support or you are not in support? Look, there are by far more dangerous implications of this. And I think that that is precisely why the country should, rekindle their sense of consciousness.
What are the implications?
The implications, I have mentioned one, that it does not lie in your mouth to say we're a good country. The assessment indices from organized, civilized community of nations is predicated on some of these problems that we're having. What is the state of the judiciary? What is the confidence of the people in their judiciary? To what extent can you get justice from the judicial system?
Are you looking at that in isolation?
Of what?
Of the fact that, look, prosecution, if you don't have a good case, what is the judiciary supposed to do?
No, well, if you put that as the question, you'll be making a point, essentially because we're also not very comfortable with the way and manner that the government, and when you say government in this sense, you are talking about the judiciary, has carried on. You cannot afford to take such a high-profile intervention without a close-knitted body of evidence that will secure you ineluctably conviction. That standard of proof, that standard of evidence that will necessarily secure you conviction, because first is that you are dealing with masters of the same rule. Second is that no doubt they will get the best of legal practitioners who will intervene on their behalf. And the third is that you cannot isolate the possibility of solidarity from the committee of judges before whom this matter will also come. That is not to say that there are very many judges, and I speak authoritatively, who are not just clean, but hardworking and completely dedicated in this country. Many of whom we know, and I've had cause to mention that many of them are even sick because of the condition of their operations and their tools of engagement. And many of them are extremely satisfied that, look, we are just in this whole building together, believing and knowing that we are discharging our responsibility according to law and the conditions of our service, with the full knowledge that we have the ultimate God who will also preside over our own judgment, and then does it to the best of their ability, only to hear that some of their members are involved in some of